Hey there, everybody. It's Nobody Special, aka John Mazza. And I'm going to try something here. I'm going to try and do a little Photoshop lesson on the fly. And let's see if we can do that. We're going to do a little promotional graphic for Elisa Jordana. And we got to start off getting images. So I already pre-did this project to make it hopefully go a little easy. And I already found the images. But the way I did was I looked on her Facebook first, and I didn't find anything that I wanted. I wanted her and Kermit. I looked on her Twitter, which is a little bit harder to look at. I didn't see it. And then, of course, you could just do a Google search. She's famous enough for that. So Elisa Jordana. And, of course, a lot of images come up. I'm going to click on now. You could click here, and it'll just show you the images. And the thing I wanted to show you here is, let's say, let me find a picture. Here, her with the hula hoop. So the point is, well, this is small. Let me exit out. The point is, don't just drag. What I would do here to use this image is I would drag it from the desktop, drag it from here to my desktop. If I do it from this point here, I'm going to get this small thumbnail picture. So what you want to do is you want to click on the image, and you want to take the larger image. So if I drag this right now to my desktop, I'm going to get just this small thumbnail. If I click on it first, now, and I drag this, now I'll get this image of her and Benji. So I would drag this to my desktop. And then I found this picture of her and Kermit in the Google search, and I also found a picture of a heart. So we'll minimize this for now. And I'm in Photoshop now, and here is the heart, and here is the picture I'm going to use. So the picture, this is at 100%, so it's a decent sized picture, perfect for the internet, you know. Obviously not big enough to do any large graphics. It'd be tough maybe for a post you could probably get away with, but anything like a billboard or a bus wrap, of course, it's got to be bigger. So the heart is actually very big. It's bigger than what I need. It's at the heart here, we're looking at 50%, so it's double the size of that. So what we're going to do is now, if you see this checkerboard here, you're going to see that there's no background. It's just the heart, which is perfect. I just grabbed this one. It was a perfect one. Usually has a white background, and you could delete that, but I don't even have to do that. So to select this, the easiest way I like to do is go to Select, and you say Load Selection, and you're going to just say the layer. You're basically, the layer transparency. You're basically selecting any pixel that's on the layer, and it makes a perfect selection. I'm going to do Edit Copy, and now I'm going to navigate by clicking here to the next window, and I'm going to do Edit Paste. Now it's going to be really big. And I'm going to do what's called a transform. Now, I'm saying a lot of stuff. Here's the thing. I think everyone could get something out of this. If you're a beginner, just watch what I do, and then at the end at least say, well, I don't remember exactly how we did it, but I know that there are layers in Photoshop. I know that I could transform something, or I could select something, or if I see the checkerboard, it doesn't have a background. It's an image that could be able to put on top of something else. You won't hide it completely. So, pick up certain things. If you're intermediate, this should be perfect for you. And if you're advanced, you'll find some things too. Maybe some technique I use that's different. The one thing with Photoshop is you could do just about anything, no exaggeration, 5 to 8 different ways. So there's 8 different ways to do almost any step. And it's just a matter of, I will do it a lot differently because I've been doing Photoshop since, I think, 1991. So I didn't have a lot of the tools. I might not even know some of the tools. I'm sure some youngsters could show me some great tools I'm missing out on. But anyway, and lastly, everyone will learn a little design sense. I think that's great. So what we're going to do here is going to do a transform, and I'm going to say scale. Now it's going to bring up this bar, this box, bounding box it's called, with sizing bars. Anytime you size, I always told my students, hold down the shift key, and that's going to keep the aspect ratio. I'm going to scale. It's very big, so I'm going to scale it, drag it back so I could do it some more. Might take about 3 or 4 steps. I'm just scaling and dragging, but I'm holding down the shift key, and what that's letting me do is it's letting me keep this in aspect ratio. Now, for a heart, it doesn't matter. A heart could be thin or thick, but if this was a basketball or something like that, you would want it to stay round, so you want to hold down that shift key. So I'm going to bring this into what I want here, and I'm going to say check mark here means completed. This would delete it. So I'm going to say yes, I like that. So now I'm going to just do again, select, load selection, And I'm going to do the same thing, the transparency. I'm going to get a selection. Now here, this is the layers. It's a lot to it, but this is the secret. I have 2 layers already. You can see this one has a checkerboard, and that's why we can see through to the background. This was the original image. It's got a lock on it. Always when you open it, and if something has a lock, you can just double click on it, and you could say okay, and it will unlock it. And then, you know, you should name it. I'm double clicking on the name. I'm going to say Elisa, and I don't need to name it. I'll just call it Hard. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I like to do that. I used to grade my students that they did all that. I think it's nice, especially if someone's going to work on your file later. You know, if you work in an agency or something, you know, you got to be able to have other people open your files. They should be able to see what you're doing. Now I'm going to turn off that layer. I'm just going to use the selection. I'm no longer using the layer. And if I hit, what I'm going to do is now something under select. So select has a lot of very important tools, and it's all nice in this one menu. Selection is a big part of Photoshop. That was a big part, and then layers is another big part, and there's probably some other big parts, but selecting and layering are 2 big things. So I'm going to come into modify. I'm going to say feather. Right now, let me show you. If I was to, one thing we could do is we have this selection of the heart. You know, so now I'm going to go, and this layer is active. I'm going to click on this Elisa layer. And if I was to now hit delete, it would delete what's inside the selection. So the key thing to a selection is whatever's within the selection is worked upon. If I came in with a brush now, with some black paint, it would only paint within the selection. So you can see the power of a selection. So if I wanted to come and do something like that, I could do that, and it makes a nice selection. Control or Command, it's the butterfly key on the Mac, and H will hide. I call them marching ants. You see these little things going on? We call them marching ants. We'll hide that so it doesn't get in your way. So I'm going to undo. And so when I hit delete, I got rid of that. But now I could go into the select menu and hit inverse. I'm going to flip it. So now this part isn't selected, but the outer part. Now if I hit delete, I got what I want, right? Now, what I'm gonna go back. Here you have the layers palette and a histories palette. You could go back and undo things. So I want to go back to before I inversed it, and I want to just take a look. Now, if I want to move a selection, I know it's a lot, guys. Don't worry about it. Just enjoy what's going on and try and get a little bit out of it. I have to take a selection tool. I can move the selection. If I use the pointer tool, the selection won't move properly. It might actually move part of the image. So I just want to move the selection. I just want to make sure. All right, it's saying I get an error message. Yeah, because I'm not select. Yeah, okay. I needed to select the Elisa layer. I just want to make sure I have this positioned the way I want. I guess it's okay. You know what? For this purpose, it'll be fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the inverse, and I'm going to do something called modify feather. So you saw before when I deleted it, got that hard edge. Now if I give it a feather, I got to be careful because I have only so many pixels up here. I can't feather it too much. I mean, I'm going to try 6. I think 8 is what I might have used, but I'm going to feather it. So now it's not going to be, watch, when I hit the delete now, not only does it delete the other part, but it makes a soft edge. And that's what I want here. I want a soft edge. You know, I'm looking for a certain kind of look. So I'm going to go to add a new layer. I'm going to come down here, and this little icon here will add a new layer. Like I said, there's 5 ways of doing things. And this is a blank layer. You can see the checkerboard, and I'm going to come over here, and this will bring up black and white, pure black and white. This is your color, 2 colors that you're using, foreground and background. And I'm going to flip them, hitting that key. You know, now my white is my foreground, and I'm going to hold down the Option key and hit delete, and that'll fill the background. Now, oh, you know what? I'm still selected. See, I hit it. It's a little dangerous. I'm still selected. Now I want to go select, deselect, Control D. You always want to learn your shortcuts. So deselect. I'm probably going to use a lot of shortcuts when I shouldn't be, but I just do by habit. So now I could come back here. I have the layer selected, right? So you always got to make sure you're looking at the right target layer. And then I'm going to say, make sure it's white. And I'm going to say, now before I said Option and then delete will fill it. You know, the way I should have been saying to you guys is fill it with let's see, white, and it'll fill it. Okay, so the shortcut is good to know, but I should really for you guys. Now, here's the thing about layers. Here's a layer of white. If I take this layer and move it above Elisa, she can't see her now because she is behind the layer. So the layer, it's like a deck of cards. So the bottom thing, and they're opaque, or the checkerboard will not be opaque. But all right, so now we have this. So now we're going to need to have more working room. I don't want to make this stretch this. I need more canvas. So there's two ways of making something bigger. Image size, but we want canvas size. We want to come and make this bigger. So I'm going to go 12 inches by 12 inches, okay? And now if I do keep this box here selected, it's going to add it all around. If I come here and I click on that, now it's going to add all the over to the left and the bottom. So I'm going to go all around with it. And that should be good. And then I have to redo this fill because now it's a bigger canvas. So I'm just going to come back. And this time it's selected the layer. I'm going to hold down the Option and delete. So now I have that. Now I want to do some type. Now, here's a cool thing I could show you. So first thing we want to do is we want to bring up the, let's see, character. The character window. I already have the font here selected I'm going to use, but what I'll do is I'll show you a nice thing. This is a kid showed me this, a student. I'm going to type, what is it? Elisa and Kermit. I didn't even spell it right. I know I hit some mistakes, but I can't even see it because the font color is white. This bar here, I can't remember exactly what the bar is. I apologize. It might come to me later. But whatever tool you're selecting, since I'm using the type tool now, all the little features for the type tool will come up across here. Different features only for the type tool. If I go to the brush tool, now we'll have different brush features like opacity and flow. What else we got here? Selections, so feathering. So I'm going to use the type tool. I'm going to get type things along here, and it might be the instrument panel maybe, and it's not that. I don't know. Anyway, click on here, and the type is the wrong color. I'm going to make it black so I can see it. And I did spell Kermit wrong, so I couldn't see. Now, this is what I'm going to wind up using, but here's a trick. Select the type, then come up here and select in the type box. And I usually start, I'm like a little OCD. I start at A, and then just hit your down arrow, and it'll cycle through all the fonts you have loaded. I have a lot of fonts I've been designing for a long time. So, this would look fine. That's a nice looking font, American typewriter. A lot of fonts will work with this. So, I went through a lot of them, but, I could do it like this actually. And I'm just looking for a certain thing. Let's say one thing I was looking for. Now you have this here, you have a font, a sample of what the font looks like, but they made it so darn small. Now I'm sure there's a little, a plug-in that could fix that. But when you start adding all those kind of things to your computer, you're prone to a lot of problems because they conflict. So I try to stick with the basics. So one thing I thought would look good is, well, I'll show you this keycaps. Well, this is going to come later, but I thought this would look good. It's going to say Elisa and Kermit, my online sweethearts. I wanted online sweethearts to be in like a computer type font because of, online. But when I used this thing, I thought it would be great. It didn't work. So you can't, if it doesn't work, you got to give up on it. Don't push it. It's got to be readable. It's got to look smart. This is what you call your display font. So once again, you're selecting the font. You're selecting the font up here, and you're holding down. You're going down in your up and down arrows, and you're cycling through, and you're looking for what looks good. So like I said, I had picked this font up here. It's ad lib. Okay. And what I wanted here was I wanted a nice pinkish color. That's Elisa's favorite. I'm going to click on this color box here for the font. And here's a color bar here with different hues. I'm going to come right in here in the pinks. And I'm going to, you could click on the darkness, so it's going to be more purpley or pink. And, I would pick up on what Kermit has here, but it's more in this reddish area. And it's probably not pink enough, but You know, so now as I go up here, it's going to get warmer, right, as it gets towards red. And then it would come here and then come back around the bottom. So this is what's called warm colors, red, orange, yellow. If I come down with it, it's going to get cooler. It's going to get into more pinks and purples. And once you get to blue, that's your coldest. Red is probably your hottest. So we're in, you know, Kermit's little, she's a cutie, Kermit. Little outfit there is like a reddish pink. So let's see if we can get it. I think that's good. It's not a perfect, yeah, I think it's good. Okay, so I'm going to say okay. So we got our color for our font. Now, a nice little touch here might be a little drop shadow. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. I want to show you how to do it. So come over to the layer. That's your type layer. You're going to double click over here on the right, if you can see where my cursor is. Double click, and it'll bring up this menu of different styles for the layer. It'll only do the effect on that layer. Most kids would just click on this and they would get the drop shadow. And I always said, no, click on the word. When you click on the word, notice this whole box comes up. Let's do it again. So if I click on the check, I'm only getting, well, now it's, let's see. Let's do it for a different one. If I click on the check, I'm going to get outer glow. Let me try something else. Inner shadow. Okay, so I'll get inner shadow here, but I'm not seeing any of this change. If I click on the word, I'll get all the settings. So once again, I'm going to do a drop shadow. And now I have the settings. I'm going to change. I usually like my light source coming from the upper left, I guess, down across. So I'm going to pick my light source. I could play with how soft the edges are, you know, the spacing of it, like if I want it to be further apart. So a nice little trick here is I want to go back to the default. I'm going to hold down the Option key. Now watch, it says cancel. I'm going to hold down the Option key. It's going to go to reset. So you could always reset as when I came in, and I'm going to do drop shadow, and I'm just going to change the angle, and I'm going to say okay. So now we're looking good. Now we're going to do down here, I'm going to type it capitals, my online sweethearts. Now we're going to have a problem here because I forgot the font. So, I wasn't too bright. Let's see. I think it started with an, oh, was it like an opto, almost like a, yeah, I think it's OCD or something like that. Oh, I have a lot of fonts. Like I said, I've been designing for a long time. I think it's OCD. You know what? I don't know. That's cool. I want it to look like a computer font. So obviously it's too big. I'm going to come here. I'm going to give it like 44. Yeah, that might be good. So I got to fix it, of course. And like, you know, when it's selected here, I says, you know, hey, when I was doing this, actually the green looks good. I didn't even think of the green, like an old style computer. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know. I didn't do that on the original one, but I like the black box around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a selection tool. I'm taking the square, the rectangle marquee, it's called. I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to call it, I'll just call it box. Now, when I did the type layers, they automatically name themselves with the type. And this is the background. I'll just do it here. BKRND. When I'm just doing stuff for myself, I'm just wailing out layers. You know, it just takes too much time. So, you know, I like having them named, but unless it's something I'm going to use in production and reprint, like my magic stuff, I'll just wing them out for one-time uses. Box, I'm going to come down with the marquee. I'm going to make a selection. And now what I'm going to do is on the box layer, I'm going to just fill that with black. So I'm going to make black the foreground color. I can do edit fill. And I'm going to say black, and I'm going to say okay. So now that'll be filled. Now, why is it not showing the type? Because the box is on top, right? We talked about that before. So let's get this in order here. So the graph, I like to put them in order the way they come from top to bottom. So we have the title, the graphic, the box. Now, if I move Online Sweetheart up, it'll go on top there. Now, that looks good too, that color. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to make it a little smaller. 42 points. Now, one thing I wanted to show here is what's called Visual Center. Now, this box is selected. I'm going to just do Command D, which is deselect. It's here, the deselect. So, and then what I could do also is I could link these two so they move together. But let me position them first. I could click on them, click on the both of them. I could select them either with the on the here or on the layers. And I have now tools that I could use to center them. So I could do a center, I guess that would be horizontally, and a center vertically. Now, this is when I came into graphic design, I was more of a computer person, and someone really nice man showed me, you know, this is, I could count the pixels up and down, saying, I got that centered, and I got that centered. He's like, no, John, centering is a little high. It's called visual center. So you always want your item to be a little high in the box. So you're going to take it up like 1 or 2 pixels, and that's what's called visual center. So that's how that works. Now, I like that, but I'm going to try what I did before. I'm going to make this white. Okay. And what I did was gray and pink go well together. So I'm going to take this box. Now, this is called opacity for a layer. You can make, this is cool. Like, you want to know how to do this. You can make things have different opacity. So 100% opacity or opaque is like a door. A door you can't, a wooden door or a metal door, that's opaque. Opacity would be a window. You know, so a purely glass window that's perfectly clean would be no opacity. You could see right through it. And maybe a screen would be 40% because it blurs over 20%. So we're going to take this down a little bit. And what it's going to really do in this instance, it's not going to show anything other than it's just going to make it lighter gray. So I think we'll just stick with that. That's what I had done the first time. So that looks pretty cool. So I'm at what, 60? I'll go to 70, 78%. And I think this looks good, but what I want to do is something called warp type. So I'll take my text tool, click within it, within the type, and then I'll double click, it'll select it all. I'm going to do something here called warp text, and it brings up some different things you could do. So I could do an arc, or so, you know, the arc is way too much. You could play with the arc. It could be negative or positive. I'm just going to put a slight little arc on it, you know, and it'll give it a nice look. So there's other ones that are cool, like depending on what you're working on, the fish. That's not really showing too well, but you know, there's some things that could be apropos depending on what you're working on. All right, it's not showing much because of the distortion. So there's the flag, there's the fish eye, and right, there's one actually called fish. Cool, right? So really cool. It actually looks fine with that font, but we're gonna just go with the arc, and we're gonna bring that down to just like, I don't know, 8%, whatever, 7%. In the old days, I had to like have these numbers be sort of equal or something. I don't know. I'm not that crazy anymore with that stuff. And then I'll just move a little bit. So I'm using the move tool. And I think that's what we have there. No, you know, depending on what this was being used for, you know, it could have a web address underneath, like Spreecast. Of course, Elisa is every night on Spreecast. It's called Kermit and Friends. She does a 2-hour show. From 7 to at least 9, sometimes 10, whatever. And it's a fun show. It's a roller coaster of a show, and a lot of different people you'll get to meet. And there's some great regular guests like Mark Zwiebin, and it's a cool show. So check it out on Spreecast.com under Kermit and Friends. Now, you know, online, my online sweethearts is like a little extra thing there because that was the name of a song her and Benji did. So, you know, it's a cute graphic. It's, you know, and this would go, you know, what would we use this for? It could go on a white t-shirt. That's why I use the light colors and the blending. This would print perfectly on a white t-shirt because you wouldn't have to worry. If you print this on a darker color, it's going to be different. Her face colors will be different. White t-shirt, coffee mug, mouse pad, just putting it on her Facebook page, putting it wherever she wants. Of course, if she doesn't like it, she's not going to put it anywhere. But the point was just to make some. All right, this looks a little bit off-centered. I just noticed that. So, I mean, I could center everything, but, you know, when you do something like this, like if I was printing, let's say, 10,000, you know, thank you cards for her, you know, I would be spending a lot more time on this. But since it's an online graphic, I could always change it. Even if it goes into an online store, it could be swapped out if we want to change it. But, you know, when you're printing, you got to be very meticulous with, you know, like here, I should do a spell check, edit, Check spelling. That's the one thing you have to manually do with Photoshop. It doesn't do it like on the fly like all the other programs. So you have to manually do it. And that looks good. All right, so I'm going to play a little song here for us. Let's see here. Online Sweetheart is available on iTunes, 99 cents. It came out in 2011. And this is the Google Hangouts. We don't want to see that. It's confusing. And that was that. I thought I had, oh, you know what I could do? I could just click on it here. And here we go.
I met a girl on J-Day, was looking for another playmate, but this may be my shirt, my fate. She's making me wait and it hurts. I'm not your type, but I know that we're right. Spend hours a day talking about things that we hate and we like.
We're always on time, nothing gets in the way. I love hearing your voice and what you have to say. I don't know what I'll do when I get in front of you, my online sweetheart, baby. I don't know what I'll do when I get in front of you, my online sweetheart, baby. Online sweetheart, online sweetheart.
I keep on missing you, I cannot fight it. And when I see you, I get delighted.
I keep on missing you, I cannot fight it. Then when I see you, I get excited. I don't know what I'll do when I get in front of you, my online sweetheart, baby. I don't know what I'll do when I get in front of you, my online sweetheart, baby. Online sweetheart, online sweetheart. Go up here for me, babe, cause I like the way it feels. Wear your hat with my name, paint your face for me, babe. Sing a song that I write, cause you know what I like. I'll do anything, I'll do anything.
Go up here for you, babe, cause you like the way it feels. I wear a hat with your name, I'll paint my face for you, babe. Sing a song that you write, cause I know what you like. I'll do anything, I'll do anything.
Are you gonna delete your J-Date profile finally? Or are you gonna be logged on for the rest of your life?
I can't, baby, I have a 20-year membership.
I got the cancel account right now.
I don't know what I'll do
When I get in front of you,
my online sweetheart,
baby.
I don't know what I'll do
when I get in front of you, my online sweetheart, baby. Online sweetheart, online sweetheart.
I don't know what I'll do
when I get in front of you. And I don't know what I'll do when I get in front of you.
Think you're starting to like me, Elisa, or not?
It's because I made you look hot, veggie baby.
Excellent song, right? She's really talented. That was a great song. You know, Benji helped her with that. Let's close this. I was going to put in a Spreecast logo, but oh, I did. I dragged it in. I just dragged it right in. It's so cool. Like, I don't know if you could do that on the PC, but on the Mac. So, you know, and since I'm using the white background here, I could put this here. And I could, you know, you could turn layers on and off. So if I was to save this now, I could save it. That's off-centered. Duh. I could just save it with her Twitter. I think most people would know that's a Twitter. And then do a save. And then I could come turn that off and put the Spreecast and do a save, et cetera, et cetera. So to save this, you would do File, Save As. Well, first you want to hit Save, and you want to name it a good name. I actually have the name here, the stupid name up from the file on the internet. So I would say Online Sweetheart. H-E-A-R-T. Save it to my desktop. So I want to save that, right? Because it's going to keep all my layers. And if I want to come in and now change it, I made a spelling, or she wants, maybe I made a mistake here, sweetheart's one word. You need to save your Photoshop file. That's what you call your native file. Now you're going to save it out in a format that could be used on the internet and at print shops and stuff. So you're going to do a save as. And I would say for this one, since it's mostly online, I would do a JPEG, and I would just do save, and then it comes up with a setting. An important graphic like this, let's say it's going to be used maybe for printing too, I would keep it maximum setting. As you move down, you make a smaller file, but then it also makes a really pixelated, like it's called a lot of artifacts. So you want to, you'll see, let's say, I can't even see the file size, but let's keep it maximum. Say okay, it'll save the same name with just JPEG, and that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If there are any questions, you can hit me up at johnmazzo1@gmail.com, and that's it. Goodbye from Nobody Special, and have a good evening.